if possible, as a young person, how can I, bring about change within the community that I come from, and also because I also realize that being local is good, but also we really need to influence the international fora, because now the world has become a global village.
Okay, Mr. Tapiwa, can you tell me exactly what it is you do?
So basically, on this project, I'm working on climate change resilience building with local communities in Sierra Leone, working with Village to Village Federation, and my daily job is to look into the farming systems that you're using and try to co-create working solutions to the farming practices that are smart, that are climate smart in context, that can actually ensure community resilience. So basically, I am there to work with the community and make sure that the community has a climate-proof response to the climate change, and also as a stand in between community and the government, to also try to bring about critical issues that can be embedded in policy so that it speaks to the needs of the local community. So basically, I stand in the intersection of faith, peace building, and environmental sustainability and development.
Yeah, so Mr. Tapiwa, what sparked the desire in you to become a climate change activist?
So it's quite interesting, but I would really say that what sparked me to become an activist is because, for lack of a better term, it's called a victim of the circumstances. I, coming from the global south, which is the most vulnerable space, and haven't seen the devastating negative effects of climate change, and being a stern advocate for social justice to address the systemic inequalities embedded within our policies, embedded within social structures, that really pushed me to say, if possible, as a young person, how can I, bring about change within the community that I come from, and also because I also realize that, being local is good, but also we really need to influence the international fora, because now the world has become a global village. And if we can push change from a local forum and forget about the international forum, it might have ripple effects, most of which that are negative. So that's really pushed me to say that, for my experiences and for my belief, which is I'm a Christian, and from my conviction as a young person that I have a responsibility to take within our societies, that really pushed me to lean towards the environment. And also, as a peace practitioner by profession, I realized that most of the conflicts that we are experiencing in Africa are morely coming from environmental issues, resource-based conflicts, water conflicts, you can name it. So I believe that there is someone to then look into that niche, try to find, working solutions, how best we can integrate science and social science, and try to communicate and find a more holistic approach to attend to these issues. So that's how my background into climate change advocacy is built.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, Mr. Tapiwa. So do you think that it's important for Africa to adopt renewable energy and all that?
Africa being the most vulnerable, come to think of it, if you hear the word energy poverty, right? It really speaks to Africa, with statistics from the World Economic Forum saying that we have over 500 million people that doesn't have access to electricity. We have, from the African Development Bank, saying that 700 million people, that's almost a billion, that doesn't have access to clean energy. So this really needs Africa to come think of best alternatives to the energy that you are using. And us being so much reliant to fossil fuels, and the whole world is saying, let's end fossil fuels, let's transition. It's something that we really need to come now, think of what's the best alternative for us as Africa to end energy poverty and to push for development. And there's nothing else that we can point to other than the clean energy. And I can safely say that it's high time now. There's no better time than now to not to only to talk about clean energy, but also to act towards transitioning to clean energy, specifically for the African continent.
Yeah. So are you a Sierra Leonean, or because I see your profile, you schooled at the University of Zimbabwe. Are you a Zimbabwean? Are you a Sierra Leonean? Or you just work in Sierra Leone?
So I'm a Zimbabwean by nationality, but as a global mission fellow, we are sent to serve in different communities around the world. And it so happened that I merged with the community in Sierra Leone. So that's where I'm serving from 2023 up to 2025, working with the local communities in Sierra Leone and try to find, best ways to fight this climate change calamity. So I can say I'm Zimbabwean, working in Sierra Leone, but I always prefer to say that I'm an African just holding a Zimbabwean passport and being born in Zimbabwe.
United we stand. So in your local community, I mean, where you come from in Zimbabwe, I'm sure there are people there who still maybe use I don't know if you have these bush lamps in your local community where at night you don't switch on the light, you use the bush lamp. Did you have that in your local community?
So basically, it's quite interesting what you are really asking about in terms of bush lamps and other things. So I would say that I will speak from two positions. Number one, being a person that grew up most of my time within the urban area, and then later worked with people from the rural community. I would say that most of the communities in Zim that I've worked with, they morely depend on fossil fuels. So they use like paraffin, kerosene to have this kind of lamps. But also there is alternatives. Some use fire as a source of light. Yeah, but specifically to tell you that I know of specific bush lamps, that would be a total lie. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Some people didn't grow up in the villages, and that's quite okay. Because back then in the village, personally in my community, I would see have those mothers who use the bush lamp to light up their homes at night, and it's really disturbing to see them going through that. So, Mr. Tapiwa, can you just briefly define clean energy? Maybe in a way that your grandmother will actually understand that what is clean energy. Because if you are trying to tell her to leave that bush lamp and to adopt clean energy, you're going to explain it to her in a way that she will understand in a layman's language. Yeah.
So I would say that clean energy in context is a source of energy that that do not promote pollution and doesn't have implications to the environment. And also that comes with different benefits, like clean energy in context should have these super qualities of being affordable and accessible, as well as it comes with economic opportunities, environmental protection, and health benefits. So it's a source of energy that is derived from renewable and zero emission sources, but in context, it actually improves the livelihood in a way that promotes sustainability. So that's how I would define clean energy from my standpoint.
Yeah. What advice are you going to give to people to adopt clean energy in their daily way of life?
So speaking from the context of the rural communities, I know that a transition to clean energy is not something that is cheap, and something that we are not really ready to adopt given the lower finances. But there are very simple key steps that we can now take into as people. Like, for instance, try to look for better alternatives that have lesser emissions. For instance, I'll give you a simple example from Zimbabwe that's called a total stove. So it uses less wood for the same outcome that you would use for a lot of firewood. So come to think of embracing such innovations and go step by step, now moving into more cleaner energy, because we cannot talk about just people jumping into adopting solar energy, adopting wind energy, when we don't talk about the issues around finances. Who is going to finance that? So basically that's me speaking from the communities that I've worked with through time, to say that most people have a tendency of just saying people should adopt to solar energy, people should not choose this new model of innovations, but without literally taking into account the cost. Who is going to bear the cost, and what are the real costs to adopting to clean energy?
Yeah, that's actually true, because I think adopting clean energy is, many people misunderstand the concept of it, and I don't know if I should say it is costly, but to me personally, I feel like if we are to transition, this is the reason why people in local communities refuse to accept the idea of transitioning, yeah, because they feel like it's very costly. Buying solar panels, it doesn't come free. People don't come and give them for free, yeah. And even to install, I hear that to install a wind turbine, it's quite expensive, and just one blade weighs a lot, like it's very heavy. Maybe this is something that, and this is one of the reasons why people in local communities refuse to maybe even get this idea into their minds. So if you were to go to maybe a local chief to tell him about this clean energy, renewable energy, and all that, yeah, the people, tell me, how will you actually approach this local chief to make him understand that it's actually important? It may sound like it's costly, but it's necessary.
Yeah,
Remember, you are talking to a local chief.
So basically, the standpoint I've always used is, try to look at things from a dialogue perspective. I would say we introduce the chieftainship to the opportunities that are there and some alternatives, bringing in the benefits of transition to clean energy, and now try to co-create a way of a more just transition to adapting to clean energy. So it takes quite a lot of procedures to initiate the dialogue. But the first port of call, I would say, is not to say it, but try to initiate dialogue and expose the chieftainship to the hidden benefits, for lack of a better term, to the benefits that most people don't see beyond, and also implore on the need to invest into clean energy and what it brings. So that's how I would approach it, to share my views, hear their views, and then see if we can create a more, inclusive action and way forward from that.
What do you think are the challenges or barriers to transition to this clean energy? I don't want to say the local community, but on the country level, what challenges do you think countries are facing to transition to this renewable energy?
So the big elephant in the room is political will. I'll get back to what I was saying in terms of political will, in terms of policy first. Like, we really need to think about putting the right frameworks into place that speaks to clean energy, and mostly not only speaking about having clean energy in place, but also try and discuss affordability and accessibility of clean energy. Because you see, in most discussions that are being taken into play, everyone is so eager to transition. And the whole discussion is based on saying the best alternative is to adopt solar, adopt wind energy. But no one is talking about at whose cost.
Yeah.
who is going to fund it. So we really need to speak about these tipping points to say, okay, fine, these are the tipping points to transition. And the elephant in the room is, number one, funding, number two, political will. How can we now, push for that political will, but at the same time considering who is going to fund this transition? So for me, I would say that these are the major challenges, because if you speak to communities and say that we want clean energy today, if there is political will and there is funding for that, no one in their right mind would decline to have clean energy, because everyone, if you've stayed in the rural areas, you know that everyone wants to move into the city. And the one major thing that they are following is the lights.
Yeah. No, but I beg to differ with you there. Sometimes these people reject these ideas because, first of all, if you want to install a big solar farm, you need to clear a huge mass of land. That's deforestation, right? You need to clear that area, and maybe to do that, you need to go to a local community, because you cannot break down houses that are already existing to install solar panels. You need to go to an area that is not occupied, which is probably somebody's farmland, and play to install solar panels. Yeah, and in doing that, you are actually, maybe that's the person's source of livelihood. Yeah, so I think that sometimes these are the reasons why these people are kind of refusing the idea of adopting renewable energy, because you need to clear huge farmlands. Even when you're installing wind turbines, you have to do it wherever the wind turbines have been installed. These people can no longer farm in these areas. Yeah, which means that they have lost maybe a piece of land, and even if you give them money, that money is not going to give them that yearly output, and the money is going to get finished soon. But they had that farm that they were counting on for livelihood, for money, for everything. Yeah, so sometimes I feel like maybe this is why some individuals are refusing the idea, or are refusing to see the benefit that comes with it. Because some people, most people always see the short-term advantages of something, and they don't look ahead. Yeah. So, Mr. Tapiwa, do you think that the government of Zimbabwe is willing to adopt the idea of transitioning to renewable energy?
Yeah, in terms of the government, based on policy and what they are pushing for, I do feel like there is a very will to transition from fossil fuels to clean energy. And I do believe that's something that they are working towards tirelessly, like day in, day out. But also the major challenge that they face, which will keep on hammering on, is the finance, in terms of the resources to actually do it. And also to respond to what you were saying before, like just to clarify the standpoint that I was coming from when it comes to adapting to issues around, clean energy. My context was not only to say that people are not responding to it based on that it's beneficial, but like I said, when I talked about who is ready to bear the cost, these are some of the costs that I was talking about. A change in livelihoods. How friendly is it? Does it include people in terms of designing and implementing the project? So these are all aspects. But I would say that in the context of the Zimbabwean government, I've seen great progress towards, transition to clean energy. Like, for instance, they've opened up, lowered the duty. You can get duty-free solar panels into the country, and there's discussions also towards like looking into, transitioning from fossil fuel cars to electric cars, which is something that is just being discussed, and that has great potential, but also something that need also interrogation to say that, are we really ready to do it? But I can safely say that they are doing great in terms of pushing toward that. The only thing that maybe might be lacking is the support that they need, support in terms of finances to actually see this come to play, because in terms of some of the things needed to push for transition, they are really doing it.
Okay, so if you had the opportunity to sit with maybe delegates from international, from the high income countries, the global north countries, the global north. If you had an opportunity to sit with delegates from these countries and to talk on the issue of financing Africa to transition to renewable energy, what would you tell them?
So what I would tell them, the first port of call is we need to remodel the financing model that they are providing to Africa when it comes to transition and climate change issues. We don't need to talk about financing models that further expose the marginalized communities to problems. We have a problem with the financing model that's only focusing on loans, which is further impoverishing the community. So you come to think of that, those countries will be embedded by thinking of we want to transition, but at the same time thinking of how are we going to repay the loans. So that's the first port of call that I'll talk about, in terms of there is need to remodel the financing systems, and also they should really stop the whole idea of making promises and start acting. Because I think as the global south, we are vulnerable enough, and each and every year we are just having promises about climate finance, about this and these pledges and everything. But are these pledges coming to play? That's a question that you need to be answering, that we need answers, especially to the people that you have pledged. For how many years have you paid up? And how are you paying up? And who is monitoring the model of payment? So all these issues need to come into consideration, and we really need to discuss this if I'm to talk to the international forum, to say that, yes, you owe us for causing the climate change, and you should stand up and pay us. This is something that is non-negotiable. It's not something that we can negotiate. It's not something that they cannot run away from, because there is evidence that they have been polluting for long. So we really need now to talk about things that really pushes change, and not just change, but just change. I will say that the change that really promotes and do away with the social inequalities within the communities that we live.
So what amount would you say is a fair adaptation finance that is attributed to Africa yearly?
You know what, adaptation financing context, like I would really say that, saying an amount in context, I would think that we will start thinking from maybe $1 trillion. We will start thinking from $1 trillion. Based on that, there is continuous damage that is being brought about by the climate change calamity. And there is continuous, I would say, suppression, for lack of a better term, of the local communities. And these, if they are not met by now, this means that the charge is increasing. So I would start from $1 trillion. Based on that $1 trillion will really help to bring about a more sustainable solution to issues around adaptation, especially within the African context. Because, truth be told, if I were to say that, say a lesser amount, I will be really disappointing the people that are suffering every day by the negative effects of climate change.
Okay, that's really nice. So let me ask, this is going to be a little bit personal to you, Mr. Tapiwa. I want to know, at the personal level, what exactly are you doing, or do you feel that you, as an individual, you can influence policies in Zimbabwe to adopt clean energy?
So for me, being a policy person, I've always invested my time in research and understanding what are the trends, what are the benefits, what are the negatives, what are the loopholes, and what are the best practices that we can adopt. So in terms of policy, I always take my time to also try and weigh in my opinion towards different policies that are being created, as well as lobby with the government to say that this is what's happening. We really need change. I've been able to contribute to the creation of the national determined contributions in Zimbabwe, youth position papers to COPs, and currently I've been also giving my input, though I'm not in Zimbabwe currently, but I've been giving also my input on the climate change bill that is ongoing, to say that we really need to look into how the policy that we are creating will speak to the needs of the local communities that are mostly affected by climate change. And we really need to stop just doing things on the surface and thinking from a privileged point of view, that when you think of transition, you just think like everyone needs to go to solar because I can afford. I can just say everyone can really need to do that. So for me, on a personal basis, I've been investing my time in research, also try to document the good practices within the indigenous knowledge systems so that they can also be a critical tool, not only just knowledge, but it should be a tool within the climate change adaptation and mitigation. It should be considered as a mainstream action when it comes to climate change mitigation. So on an individual level, I've been mostly focused on saying I bring in data-driven solutions that speaks to humanity and also to the environment. So it's like balancing planet and the people.
Exactly. And we know more people are using data people. Do you have any plans of creating a youth coalition or a youth movement someday, or have you done that already?
So in terms of creating, I feel like creating, we keep on reinventing the wheel. But I would rather say I would leverage on the already available spaces for young people and start to influence different talks about it. Like you guys as YAF, you have issues around adaptation finance. This is a platform that's already there, that's actually looking into young people. Why can't we then not just leverage on those available platforms? We have the Nairobi.
Basically, because opportunities are not given to everyone the same.
Yeah, I do understand. I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. There is not only, I mentioned only a few, and there is quite a number of youth movements that are there. Speaking from a Zimbabwean perspective, I'm also a founder of an organization that works into youth issues, but I also take into cognizance that there are bigger networks that are already there. If I'm able to mobilize young people with my organization, I then expose them to a more bigger picture, so that, because me as a person, by creating it on my own, I cannot really be able to actually drive the message where it is supposed to be, but I can leverage the available systems to actually pass it on. So it's not a matter of trying to say that opportunities are not being created, but taking advantage of those same loopholes and of those infrastructure that has been set in place already to channel through the message. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shapiro, for your time. It was indeed an insightful discussion. I'm really hoping that we get to talk again some other time in the future. Maybe not on a podcast anymore, but if we have the opportunity to meet physically, we'll get to discuss more about this. So I'm really grateful that you created time to be able to be part of this podcast. Any last words you can give our viewers to take action today to try to adopt renewable energy in their daily lives?
I think what I can say as my parting words is, as the young people, we should start lobbying for energy systems that clean and then support sustainability. And the key actions is to lobby and try to communicate with our governments, set aside our difference, and make sure that we communicate clearly and soberly to our governments to adopt policies that promotes clean energy, and also to take the little actions that we can. For instance, just saving the energy. For instance, you can switch off the lights and other devices when you are not in use, and also take an opportunity to educate those who doesn't really have the knowledge when it comes to this clean energy, so that when we lobby for anything, we are coming in from a level playing field. So basically, that's what I would say that is something that we really need to do, and these are the small actions that can actually, make us realize. And also the youth, the major challenge is we are the mega minds of this generation from now going forward. And I know that as young people, we can always do it. Let's start thinking. I always want to end a discussion with a call from a song by John Legend, which is it's called "If You're Out There, If You Find Time, You Can Listen to It." It starts by saying, if you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, I'm calling every man. We are the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday and we are already late. So the time to take action is now. And everyone who is under the sound of my voice, it's your responsibility to find solutions to the climate change calamity. And it's your responsibility to transition to clean energy. So that's basically my word. And thank you very much.
Beautiful, beautiful, very beautiful. That's amazing. Mr. Tapiwa, thank you very much for joining us. And for you who is viewing this podcast, we are hoping that you are gotten the message from Mr. Tapiwa. Try as much as possible to turn off your light when you're not in use. Do not leave your phones charged to the fullest when you're done charging them. Try as much as possible to conserve energy, educate someone today, join the government in lobbying for the adoption of renewable energy in your various countries, in your various localities, wherever you are. So we are going to be, this is the end of our podcast, and we're going to be coming back next time with another interesting topic. Remember to follow, like, comment, share, because we count on your views, your comments to make progress. Thank you very much for joining in to our Yahcast today, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you very much, Mr. Tapiwa. Hope to see you again next time.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.